Yes. Greetings to everyone. Greetings to everyone. My name is Kwame Gonza, and the channel is called Africa Reimagined. Today we have an important topic to talk about. We want to talk about Russia versus the West, the conceptual West, what PLO Lumumba calls the conceptual West. That is the United States, Europe, and all the other countries of European descent, whether you're talking about Canada, whether you are talking about Australia, all these are part of the West. These are countries which identify as Europeans. Now, on the April of 27th, the United States Congress passed a bill called HR 7311. The bill is called HR 7311, and that bill was called HR 7311, a bill for countering malign Russian activities in Africa. Now, what is interesting in this bill is that even though it is a bill that is directed towards Russia, in claiming that Russia is carrying out subversive activities on the African continent, on the other side, we see that it is a bill which is, first of all, very disrespectful to Africa as a continent. Number two, is very disrespectful to Africa as a continent and the African people. Number two, this bill, it doesn't respect the sovereignty of Africa. The fact that Africa is mentioned in this bill as Russia countering, or as the United States trying to counter the activities of Russia in Europe, means that Africa is not a sovereign, state, or the countries in Africa are not sovereign states. It's like they are part of Europe or they are part of the United States, because this bill was passed in the Congress in the United States. This means that this bill makes Africa part of the United States, and Africa has no right to choose any friends. Okay, Africa has no right to choose any friends. Any friends that Africa chooses, those friends must be chosen or must be approved by the United States and Europe and its European allies, the white allies. And when we are talking about these things, we are talking about white supremacy here. Okay, this is veiled white supremacy. For a group of white men to sit in the United States, in Washington, in the Congress, okay, on Capitol Hill, and make a bill, pass a bill regarding Africa when Africans are not there. This is similar to what happened in the Berlin Conference, where a group of greedy European men and women sat in Berlin in 1884 and 1885 and passed, and petitioned the African continent, and came and colonized that, and colonized the African continent. And that is why it is very important for us to pay attention to these happenings, to these occurrences that are going on, while our African leaders are here, doing all kind of misbehavior. And then our media also, where is our media? Where is our African media to be able to inform our people about what is going on? Because these things are affecting us. These things affect us whether you want it or not. Because in the past, Russia has been instrumental in stopping the activities of neocolonialism, okay, all around the world, not only in Africa. In Africa, we can talk of Mali. Russia came to protect the government there when a coup happened, and the government there is pro-African people, and it wants to protect the African people, because there was a puppet government which was being propped up by France. So France, in turn, came up to want to overthrow the government, and Russia gave the security through all of you heard about the Wagner group. The Wagner group has been in Russia trying to protect the people over there, okay, trying to protect the government in Mali. So the United States in turn calls these subversive activities. So it must counter. So what it means, what these white men, these white guys mean by calling Russia's help to Africa, calling it a subversive activity, what they mean is that they want to continue, or to, you know, to control the continent and continue the exploitation of African resources and continue the colonization of the African continent without anybody stopping them. And Russia has not only been doing this, that it did this in Africa, but it did this also in Syria. That the government in Syria has been able to stand and was not able to be overthrown by these white people, these Europeans and these Americans and whatever, Canadians and Australians. Like I said, they are all the same. It is the same group, and Japan also has added itself on top because Japan fears China a lot. So it doesn't see any means of protection unless it allies with the West, because Japan carried out a lot of dangerous activities, colonization and exploitation of China. So it fears China because of this. It fears retribution from China and revenge, because China doesn't forget. So Japan decided also to add itself to this group of colonialist countries. Okay, so now Russia did not do this only in Africa, but it did this also in Syria. That is why the government in Syria, and I tend to think that if Russia had also come in to protect the government in Libya, it would have been better. That place would have been better. The Sahel would have been safer. We would not have had all this chaos that is going on in that area right now. Rebels going up and down. They say ISIL has run all the way to Burkina Faso and all these areas, all the way up to Mozambique. You see, they say that is ISIL. And we think that this is a hidden agenda. There's a hidden agenda behind this claim that these are rebels, these are terrorists and stuff like that. So there is a hidden agenda that they want to use this as a source, as a means of coming to Africa, as a means of retaining themselves onto the African continent and grabbing onto the African continent and sticking to the African continent and say they are coming to protect Africa from terrorists, while in turn they are exploiting Africa's resources. And so we see this further in the struggle that is going on in Ukraine. You can see that the West was able to provoke Russia, okay, was able to provoke a war, and it is continuing to pour weapons into Ukraine. Russia wants to negotiate for peace. He wants to stop the bombing. These guys are pouring more weapons and unleashing more sanctions, you know, onto Russia. And this is affecting the international trade, the supply chains of the world. It's affecting the food chains, you know, the food supply chains of the world. Because these two countries, Russia and Ukraine, have been supplying the world with wheat, which wheat is very important in the Middle East and some parts of North Africa and some of the other parts of Africa, okay, because they use it for making bread. Now, they put sanctions on Russia, and definitely this affects the food. And then they put sanctions on Russian oil, you know, and they stop the selling, they stop Russia from selling its oil on the international market. This affects the international markets, you know, the prices of oil. And we have seen this happen. And even it affects themselves. It affects Europe, it affects the United States. We have seen the barrel of oil going up in the United States. Why? It's because Russia supplies 10% of the oil on the international market. So if you put sanctions on it, then the prices of oil are going to be affected, definitely. The prices are going to be affected. So what we are seeing is that these countries are behaving like spoiled children. Okay, you know, a spoiled child, you can have a spoiled child, you give it food, and then it will throw the food down, and then it will continue crying. So this is the behavior of the Western world. And on the other hand, they want to behave like they are the masters on the African continent. They want to tell Africa what to do. They want to tell the African people what to do. And we are thinking about a solution, and we will come to that and tell you what we are doing about this situation as African civil society or organizations or coalition of Pan-African organizations who are working with the PLO Lumumba Foundation and all the other Pan-African Daily TV, Sister Shanice, and all these people, what we are doing about it. Now, we have seen that the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia, Mr. Sergei Lavrov, has been in Africa recently. He has been on a tour in 3 African countries, more than 3. I think he came to about 4 countries. He came to Egypt. He came to Congo, not DRC. There's another Congo, which is not DRC. And he came to Uganda, and then he finished his tour in Africa. And in all this, the purpose of Sergei Lavrov's visit to Africa and tour in Africa was for the purpose, and majorly he concentrated on Central and East Africa. Okay, Central and East Africa, because if you look at Egypt, you look at Congo, you look at Uganda, you look at Ethiopia in the Horn of Africa, all these are in the central and eastern part of the continent. So the purpose of his coming to Africa was for him to update the leaders in the region about what is going on with the war in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine, which definitely Russia called a special military operation, and that purpose was for them to disarm Ukraine. They said it is for them to disarm Ukraine because of the way it has been mistreating certain Russian people in Ukraine, a certain tribe in Ukraine, certain people in Donbass and stuff like that, and Luhansk and Donetsk and stuff like that. So they have a quarrel. There was a quarrel in Ukraine, and Ukraine is trying to mistreat, people of Russian descent, okay, in the country. And Russia came in and said, we have to protect this. So this is some of the genesis. But Sergei Lavrov came to update the African leaders on this issue and said that the issue of transporting the food, it is not Russia that is the problem, as has been painted on the international stage and the Western mainstream media, that Russia is the problem. Russia is the problem. Russia is not the problem. The problem is the Western countries, which have imposed the sanctions on the ships that are the Russian ships that are supposed to transport these goods. Okay. Meanwhile, these people are out there on the international media lying to everyone and saying that Russia is the problem. Russia is the problem. They are not telling us that we have also imposed the sanctions. We have imposed the sanctions on Russia, and that is the problem. We have put sanctions on Russian ships. That is the problem. We have stopped Russian ships from docking on ports on the international waters, on international, ports. They are not saying that. They're just saying Russia is the problem. So Sergei Lavrov was in Africa to try to clear that. Okay, he was trying to clear that up. And now these people, they think that Africa is stupid. They think that Africans do not think, okay? And they still have this white superiority, this colonial mentality within their minds of thinking that they can come here, even in this age, the information age, where we can get all the information we want and we are able to filter it out. They think that they can just shut off, for example, block RT news of Russia, so that RT will not tell us the other story of what is happening on the other side, so that we can listen to only the colonial news outlets, so that they can brainwash our minds, and then we will take the side of the colonialists. But this is a narrative which is outdated. This is an outdated way of thinking, because now the information is out there for free. Okay, now the internet is out there. You can go out there and look for your own information. You can go out there and read the history and listen to the other side of Russia, even though they have banned RT News of Russia from giving us the other side of story. As you know, that DSTV, which is owned by people who are sitting in Europe, DSTV, multi-choice DSTV, which you hear, and they normally say that it is a Russian company, which is broadcasting all over Africa, banned RT News. That company doesn't belong to South Africans, because majority of South Africans, or black people in South Africa, they don't own anything. All those corporations are owned by white people who are sitting in Canada, sitting in Europe, sitting in the United States. Okay, so this multi-choice, with its neo-colonial masters who are sitting in Europe and sitting in Washington, because they have a interlinked web. They have an interlinked web of neo-colonial organizations that they can just say something and then they block everyone, like what you see that they blocked Russia from their banking system, the SWIFT, and corporations like McDonald's, all of them, they started pulling out of Russia, all of them, Facebook and all that, they started pulling out of Russia. Okay, so that is the web of neocolonialism, that these corporations, this is what even Nkrumah was talking about in his book, Neocolonialism, the Last Stage of Imperialism. He was talking about the emergence of corporations, the use of these corporations in colonizing Africa. And when we see DSTV, it is part of the problems which Nkrumah was talking about. It is part of the neocolonial tools which Nkrumah was talking about in his book. I encourage people to go out and read that book, Neocolonialism, the Last Stage of Imperialism. It's very, very important. So they have been throwing out this propaganda on their CNN, Fox News, whatever, to try to brainwash Africans and to think that Africans cannot think for themselves. Okay, so the French president Macron, when he saw that the minister of foreign affairs of Russia was in Africa, he also jumped on a plane to come to Africa. Okay, he came to Cameroon, where we know that they have a puppet there called Paul Biya, who has been slaughtering and killing African people in Cameroon. He came there, the guy cannot even walk. Paul Biya cannot even walk. You could see that French Macron was just supporting him. The guy cannot even stand well. Okay, he cannot stand well. It's like the wind is going to blow him and he's going to fall down. So Macron comes and starts even insulting Africans. You see, insulting Africans, that we are the hypocrites. How can we be the hypocrites? How can we Africans be the hypocrites? Because he's saying that Africans are hypocrites because Africans refused to support them in their aggression. Africans refused to support the Europeans, okay, these white people, in their aggression, in their hypocrisy of going to Ukraine and pouring their weapons and telling the Ukrainian people that they should fight against their own brothers, the Russians. Okay, so he's blaming Africa. And then when this fighting broke out, and then the prices of commodities have gone up. So who is the hypocrite? Who is the hypocrite? Is it the Europeans and their white guys, the Americans and Canadians, who are hypocrites, or is the Africans who are hypocrites? Because the Africans have tried to stay away from this conflict. We have tried to stay away from the conflict, and they are pouring the weapons and imposing sanctions, and prices of commodities on the international market are going up. So who are the hypocrites? And the same people are making noise around the world that prices are going up. So who is the hypocrite? So anyone with common sense would immediately know, anyone with even the slightest bit of common sense will conclude that these are the hypocrites. These Europeans are the hypocrites. These Americans are the hypocrites. These Canadians and Australians, they are the hypocrites. You are pouring weapons, okay, and you are encouraging these guys to fight, and they are destroying their own country against a powerful country, instead of encouraging them to come to the table and negotiate. You are encouraging them to fight, and you are putting embargo and sanctions on Russian oil and Russian ships which are transporting, and you are calling us the hypocrites. I think anyone with a little bit of common sense would see that the Europeans are the hypocrites, the white people are the hypocrites, and they should stop being hypocrites. And then they come up to say that they are passing a bill, HR 7311, a bill for countering Russia in Africa. So this is the hypocrisy. This is the hypocrisy, this is the real hypocrisy, that Macron himself was so stuck in hypocrisy that he did not understand that he's in hypocrisy. And instead he's insulting the Africans who are giving him all the resources he's depending on. Because right now, when they are suffering from lack of enough energy resources because of the prices of oil that have gone up, now they are using uranium. They are starting to fire up the nuclear facilities, the nuclear energy facilities now. And which nuclear energy? Most of them, the uranium is coming from Africa. So who is the hypocrite? They are the hypocrites. They have caused their own problems, and now they are running to Africa. And when he came to Africa, he didn't say anything sensible. There's nothing sensible that Macron said to the Africans, apart from coming to Africa to insult us. You see, so this is where the African leaders have to take their ground. They have to stand their foot. And I applaud those who have stood up, like Ethiopia, Eritrea, countries, many of them, majority of them, who abstained at the United Nations. Because these white people, these Europeans, they have thought for a very long time. They think that we are stupid. We will not come to the understanding of what they have been doing. They have been robbing us. They have been enslaving us. They have been colonizing us. Now they are neo-colonizing us, and they are exploiting our resources, and they are stealing from us. They are living in luxurious palaces. Their people are living in luxury while our people are suffering, and they are stealing our resources, and they are running to us at the same time that we should save them when they have caused all these problems. Now, what have we started doing? We have also, as African civil society and the coalition of organizations, Pan-African organizations, we have come up with petitions that we are pushing. Those petitions have been backed by the PLO Lumumba Foundation, together with Dr. Edmond Folfak, who is a renowned oncologist at Ohio State University Medical Center, Dr. Susan, Pan-African Daily TV. We are working on Joshua Maponga, Honorable Joshua Maponga, also for him to endorse these petitions. And those petitions are about working together with the African Union. So we want to push the African Union and the African heads of state to unify the continent. We want to push them to stop the wars, starting with the war in Cameroon and establishment of a single African military. And we want to push them also to establish a single passport for the African people. A single passport for the African people. So these three things are the ones which we are pleading with you, that these petitions, push them, let these petitions go far, let these petitions be signed by every African. We are looking for 1 million signatures on each of these petitions. Go out there and help us to sign on these petitions. These petitions are for all of us as Africans, we the African people. If the African people and the African civil society is working together with those leaders who are progressive and they think that we should unify this continent and protect it from the neo-colonial aggression, the neo-colonial hypocrisy, the neo-colonial thievery and the robbery that is going on, the robbery of African resources, which they think that African resources should continue to nourish Europe. And then Europe will go out there and make mistakes, and then they will come back to Africa. So those leaders are the ones we want to work with. And we are saying that you sign the petitions and share them, and even tag in these petitions, tag those African celebrities who are famous, and they will help us to push these petitions further. People like Davido, people like Wizkid, people like Burna Boy, people like Caspar Nyovest in South Africa, our famous musicians in East Africa, Diamond Platinum. We have Jose Chameleone over there. We have Sarkodie in Ghana. We have all these celebrities. Let us have them sign on these petitions. Extend these petitions to them. Okay, and let us sign on them, and let us move together as African people, as African civil society. And when some of our leaders who are progressive, I mean those leaders who care about the continent, see that we are working with them, that we are supporting them, then they will have the strength to stand for us. They will have the strength to stand with us. And this is very, very important. This is very, very important. So I'll put those petitions down in the comment section and the description so that you can sign them. I want to thank you today. Thank you very much, for listening to me. Share this channel with other people. Invite them to subscribe to the channel as we move forward with this important. I wanted just to update you on what is going on, on our continent, on the important things that you should pay attention to, because we don't want again to be colonized while we are sleeping, like what happened in 1884, 1885, during that period when Europeans stood in Europe and they divided Africa. So we don't want things like the HR 7311, to be passed, bills like this to be passed about Africa, and we don't know anything. We don't know what is going on. outside there. We need to pay close attention to what is going on the international stage, because right now the world is a global village, and whatever happens in it affects us as Africans. So it is high time we pay attention to what happens, especially if you are the youth. You are a youth, and then you are going to be here for the next 30, 40, 50 years. Okay, you need to pay attention to these things which are happening. I'm not saying the elders should not pay attention. They should pay close attention. Every African should pay close attention, and all people of African descent, they have to pay close attention to what is going on the international stage. It is very, very important. My name is Kwame Gonza. The channel is called Africa Reimagined. Invite others and let us have these dialogues about our continent, because it matters. It matters when we have this dialogue, because through dialogue is when solutions come. Thank you very much. The channel is called Africa Reimagined, and I'll see you next time. Africa must unite.